Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. I want you to think of something because I was looking at a book and I was looking at some of the things that I could talk about on the radio today. And I wanted to be able to pass on new things or old things. And there was an article about brush piles. And I've always told you that one of the things that we look for the most when we're fishing is some kind of structure that the fish will come to. You know, it could be a brush pile. It could be an overhanging dock along the river. You know, a lot of bass, you see the bass guys go to any dock because they know that the bass will hang out under the dock because it's structure. But a brush pile, bits of wood and branches and so forth in the water becomes the home of so many different type of fish. And there's certain fish that really, really orient around brush piles. One of them is crappies. Anytime you go to any body of water, especially in the early part of the year when the water is a bit higher and the water's back up in the woods and so forth, if you can find a brush pile that exists around other open water, that brush pile is almost sure to have fish. And the other thing I can tell you, for years, fishing the Grass River, the Deer River, some of these other bodies of water, when I would key and try to catch walleyes, the one thing I would always look for is some kind of brush pile or tree that had fallen into the water. And what I found was that if that particular structure stayed in the river year after year, the walleyes would return to it. It was always their home, always their home. If, in fact, a flood or something moved it out of the area and it was no longer in that section of the river, the walleyes were no longer there either. So I think it's important to remember this. Another bit of woody structure that if you find it in any body of water that you go to, it's going to be a good place to fish, and that's around a beaver hut. Boy, they'll go on shore and they'll bring all this wood back and they'll build a hut. And not only is that their home, but it becomes the home of other species of fish. And both northern pike and bass will orient around one of these beaver huts. And I found that through the years that becomes one of my favorite places to fish. Now, you get too close in, you're going to snag into the wood. But I will promise you that if you can find a structure like this, especially in the early part of the year, it's probably going to have fish around it. So another tip to think about as we get ready for a new year is if we can locate the type of structure that stands out, that separates a certain section from all others, the fish will often sort of orient around that structure. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.